Hi friends, welcome. Today I'm going to be talking about the quilt blocks that we have done in my group down a country lane over on Facebook. We have been doing 4-patch quilt blocks, and we're going to turn these into pot holders. And so today I'm going to be showing you how to put the different layers of the quilt together and how to baste it and how to do a little bit of hand quilting on it. And so you're going to need a little pair of thread snips, and for this I am just using the hand quilting thread that I have used to piece my 4-patch here. And the needle I'm using is just a household needle. It's pretty long, couple inches long, and I'm going to use this to baste the layers together because this is going to be pretty thick. I wanted a longer needle. And now, if you haven't seen the other videos in this series, I will link them below and you can go watch them. I've talked about quilting tools, fabric choices. You know, there are a few videos in this series. So now the first thing you're going to need is a backing fabric. I cut my backing fabric to 9.5 inches because I wanted a little bit of extra here around the edges, because when you quilt this, your layers tend to shift a little bit, and so you need to cut your backing fabric a little bit bigger than what your actual quilt or your actual block is going to be. And you want quilter's cotton for this. Don't use any kind of polyesters, anything like that, because polyester, silk, things like that, a lot of that stuff will melt when it gets hot. So since we're going to use this for a pot holder, you know, just use cotton fabrics, quilter's cotton. Okay, now here I have a piece of Insulbright, and I will show you here what this is. It's kind of like a quilt batting, but it is needled insulated lining. Now, I've had this for a long time. It's by the Warm Company, and it's just a special lining that protects you from getting burned. Okay, and I'm going to actually use a piece of this, and then I'm going to use a piece of cotton batting. And that's just going to give you some extra protection from burns. You're just going to layer these together, and we're going to start with the backing piece. And you want the wrong side of the fabric turned up. This is going to be the outside, of course, of the pot holder. And then you're going to layer your pieces. I've cut my battings here the same size, to that 9.5 inches, just like I did the backing. Okay, and of course you would iron your backing fabric, and if your cotton needs ironed, you can iron that too. Okay, now you're going to layer your quilt block right on top. Just center that pretty well, because once we get finished, we're going to trim all this off anyway. But center that as well as you can. Okay, now I am going to take my needle. You can see here, it's, you know, I've got a big long piece of thread in there, and you want to start in the center of your block. We're going to baste this together. Now, this is the quilt sandwich. This, we have sandwiched all the layers together, and now we're going to baste them so that they don't shift around when we start the hand quilting. Okay, I have just put a big loop in my thread. I've just tied a knot down here and left a loop in there, and it just makes it easier to find it when I take the basting stitches out after I do my hand quilting. So you want to start in the middle of your quilt sandwich here. Let's make sure everything is lined up. Looks pretty good. Okay, and come in here and just do some big running stitches, just like that. And as I said, you do want to start in the center and work out. Now that goes for quilting as well as for the basting. Okay, so let's just go on. And I'm just going to kind of work around in a square until I get all this basted together. And I'm putting these stitches, you can put them wherever you want to. They don't have to be even, they don't have to be straight. They, you know, just as long as that is holding your pieces together, that is all you're worried about, because that is going to come out later and you won't see that anyway. Okay, so now when I get all this basted, I will come back and I will show you what to do next. Okay, I have finished basting my sandwich, my quilt sandwich, and I just wanted to show you, when you finish off the basting of whatever you're working on, you could just come back here and do a big back stitch, just like that. You can even do a couple of them to kind of secure it, and that's going to hold, but it's still going to be easy to take out. Okay, now I have my basting finished and we are ready to start hand quilting. Now on this piece, because it is so thick and it's pretty small, I don't have a quilt hoop small enough for this piece, and so I'm not going to be using a quilt hoop on this. And that is the reason that I have put my basting stitches so close together. You know, I want to hold that in place while I'm doing the quilting. Now you'll need a little pair of scissors to snip threads, and you're going to need a thimble for this. And then I'm using the hand quilting thread by Coats, and I have my needle threaded here with about oh, I don't know, 18, it's more than probably 18 inches, but I'm going to show you here how to do a quilter's knot to get started. Okay, you want to take the, hopefully you can see this thread against this brown fabric. You want to take the end of your thread. You can see here that I have one of the tails of the thread is short, this one is longer. You're going to point the end of the thread at the needle, and then between your thumb and your finger and the needle, you are going to catch that thread and you're going to wrap it 1, 2, 3 times and push the needle through until you feel the knot, and there is the quilter's knot right there. Now let's trim this off to about 1/4 of an inch past the knot here. Okay, and now I showed you when I was hand piecing how to do a quilter's knot, and I wrapped the thread 4 times. And I do that with hand piecing. I do wrap it 4 times because it makes the knot a little bit thicker, and I just feel like it holds a little bit better. But for since we're going to be popping this knot through the fabric and burying it inside the batting here, I just wrap the threads 3 times. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to get the thimble first thing. Now, don't expect, as I said, don't expect to get some small stitches here, because this is thick. These layers are pretty thick, and you're not going to be able to get those tiny little stitches like you normally would in your quilting. Now, I will do another video with just your quilt top, one piece of your batting and the backing, and show you how to, you know, to do the hand quilting on that. But For this, I am just using an applique needle. This is still not a real long needle, but for this piece where it's thick, this is just going to work best, I feel like. The quilting needle is just going to be too small. So what you're going to do, you always want to start in the center of your quilt, if it's a huge quilt, a small one, or whatever, and you work your way out, because that helps prevent puckers and wrinkles. So now on this piece, I am going to quilt in the ditch, and that means you just go along right where your seams are, and you just put your quilting stitches through there, okay? Now that's all the quilting I'm going to do on mine. Now if you want to put, you know, like on this one, you could, you know, put a star here, trace it out with a chalk pencil, and just stitch around the star. That would be pretty. There are all kinds of ways that you can finish a piece, you know, hand quilt it. But as I said, I'm just doing the stitching in the ditch today, and so I'm going to show you how to get started here. Now you want to start, now I'm going to start right here and go over, you know, stitch over this way first. Okay, I'm going to put my needle between the layers of fabric. You don't want to come out back here. You want to just bury that thread right down in the layers, and you're going to come out right here at the point, just like that, and right there is the knot, and you're just going to give it a little tug, and it pops right through. Okay, now you are ready to start your stitching. And as I said, these stitches are not going to be your typical tiny little quilt stitches. You're just looking for consistency and just getting a feel for that needle and you know, the motion and all that. And so you're going to go straight down. You're going to come out here a little better than 1/8 of an inch. You know, whatever is comfortable for you, whatever you can manage. If you're first, you know, if this is your first time quilting, don't expect to, you know, get little tiny stitches and all that. Then you're going to rock your needle right back up. You want to go right by the seam, okay? And that is the reason it's called quilting in the ditch, okay? Just like that, okay? And then you are just going to do that all the way across. Push that needle through. Just like that. Okay, let's keep going here. Now see, I got one of my stitches a little bit crooked there, but that's okay. That happens. Just going to keep going. Just like that. And you are feeling that needle on this side with your finger, your middle finger or your first finger, and when you feel that needle come through, you just bring it right back up, straight back up, just like that. Okay, we are almost to the end of this one, and I'll show you how to tie off. You can see there my stitches are pretty big, and that's okay, because as I said, this is a very thick piece of your battings are, you know, both these together, and then your fabrics, you know, make this pretty thick. Okay, now we are all the way over to the end. Now what you're going to do is make a loop, and you're going to tie a knot down here about a ½ an inch or so away from where your thread came out, just like that. And if you want to, you can do another one. You can do another knot and just bring it right down there on the top of the one that is, you know, already there, just like that. Okay, and then what you're going to do is put your needle down into that fabric and in between the batting again, and come up over away from where your last stitch was. Okay, and then you're just going to pop that through. Okay, and then you're going to cut, just snip your thread right at the base of that fabric. And then there is your finished quilting on this one piece. And now I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of these. And you can see here on the back the little tiny stitches here, right through there. And they're not all perfect, you know, but you know, that's okay. You just practice and practice and practice, and you'll get better and better all the time. As I said, it's been a long time since I've done any hand quilting, and this is a thick piece of fabric, or a thick quilt. So, you know, don't expect to get those little tiny stitches. But whenever I come back, I'll have the quilting done, and the basting stitches will be gone, and I'll show you what it looks like. Okay guys, I have finished quilting my pot holder, and now I am ready to trim this up. And so I will take my ruler, and I will lay the edge of the ruler right along the edge here of my pot holder, and I'll trim that off with my rotary cutter all the way around. And if you don't have a rotary cutter, you can use just a pair of scissors to trim it up. That will work just fine. And so when I get that done, I'll be back and show you the pot holder, what we have so far. Okay, now I have my pot holder finished, and I've done the quilting on it here in the ditch, and here's what it looks like on the back. You can see my stitches through here. The stitches on the back are small, and the stitches on the front are you know, bigger, and that is because the layers are so thick. Now this is not your typical quilting, because we've got an extra layer of the Insul Bright in here, and so you know, that makes it pretty hard to get those little tiny stitches. But I will do a separate video showing you how to hand quilt with just the you know, your quilt top, your backing, and a layer of your batting. But anyway, that will do it for this video. And the next time I come back, I will do a video on sewing the binding on this, and then we will be finished. And so until next time, you guys enjoy what you're doing, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.